So now we go into our panel discussion. I would just briefly introduce the speakers again. So we have Elena Hoffman from EASA and Isaac from NATS. Patrick Peters is the only speaker that was not introduced properly, but I'll do that this afternoon. But for the time being, it's enough to know that he's the head of the ATM department of the Belgian NSA. Then we have Fouad and Marcus, and finally Pavo. The session will be led by Ashley Lorison. There's no need to introduce Ashley. You all know her since long, or since yesterday. Ashley, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And for those who didn't turn around, I was the noise at the back. So now I'm just moving to the front and I'm going to carry on talking. I think the first thing that I would like to say about this panel discussion is thank you very much for agreeing to sit on this panel. I think we all know that this set of regulations, it's new to all of us. We're all trying to find our way through it. We're all trying to understand it. So sometimes to sit on a panel like this, you might feel that you need to provide all of the answers. That is simply not the case. We're sharing our views. We're sharing our opinions of what this regulation is about, of what people are doing in continuation training. And having said that, we've got some people up in the front of the room, but actually I'm looking at you because this is not a discussion with 6 people up here. This is a discussion with all of us. And we have an hour and 45 minutes, right? They're not going to talk for an hour and 45 minutes, and neither am I, even though I'm probably capable. I don't think I'll do that. I really would ask you to participate in this discussion at any time. Please share your views. Please share what you've done in your organization. Ask questions. It may be a question that somebody has an answer to, but it might be a question that people need to think about, even if they don't have the answers. So to get the ball rolling, I am going to put some of the questions to our panelists. And over the last day and a half, one of the things that has come up a few times is the discussion about refresher training and the need to assess refresher training. Admittedly, there's some uncertainty about precisely what needs to be assessed and when it needs to be assessed. But I think that we've placed quite a bit of emphasis on the assessment of refresher training. I would like to try and twist the question and take a slightly different approach. And this is really directed towards those people who are working in the training organizations and the ANSPs. And the question really is for you, what purpose does refresher training serve? Does it serve the regulation? Or does it serve your needs as an ANSP? How do you create an environment for your air traffic controllers where in refresher training they can enhance their skills? We're working in an environment where we know you need to do assessment, but how do you build this environment that enables your controllers to experiment, to practice, to learn new things without the fear of assessment? And what I'd like to do is put it to the 3 gentlemen who work in ANSPs. And Fouad, if I can start with you.
I think the main criteria for creating a fear-free environment for ATCOs being assessed is just using, like we heard, common sense and the boundaries of the assessment. So if our controllers stay within the procedures and use the normal phraseology, they can try, they can experiment, and even if they do something wrong or bad, they can retry it. So I think as long as you don't give them the feeling that they're assessed and they have to perform too good or to push them too hard, I think you just have to create a good environment and just to have fear-free type of learning. That's my approach to it.
Thank you.
I like the thing I think you said it yesterday when you said, okay, the plan was that if you check, okay, 1 or 2 ATCOs do not perform as they should on this refresher thing, you have to do anything about it. But to be honest, you have to do it every day. If you check it in the ops room, one or two ATCOs do not perform as they should, you have to do anything in this situation as well. So I like this approach, but it's not only for the refresher training, it's for our everyday life. I think the only way we can do the assessment there is we can do examinations. We do it, for example, we have every year we have one theoretical checkout. We do it as well with, like the Maastricht colleagues do. We have a question database, and the ATCOs can do the exam as often as they like, but we have fixed dates where they have to do the exam and pass as well with the 75%, as is regulated in the 340. And we always have there some questions in regard to safety and emergency procedures and so on. So we have an examination for the theoretical part in there every year. And as I said yesterday, our last part is the conflict resolution advisory, conflict resolution, where we as well take special care on the correct phraseology and the correct reactions of the ATCO. And I think that's one part of it where every ATCO can prepare for it, and we are in a where we have clear procedures and clear competence regulations, whatever, we can assess this as well. But I'm totally agree with Furt. During the real emergency training, we should not really assess the ATCO afterwards and say, okay, you did that wrong, so you don't pass. We shall create an environment where they can try out, and the most important part, they can do something wrong and learn out of it. It's a very, very important part.
I must agree with you there. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, one of the EASA safety conferences, there was somebody speaking from the airline industry. And one of the things that they mentioned that I think was quite pertinent is that for somebody in recurrent training, flying an aircraft, one of the most useful experiences that they could have was actually just simply to experience, to feel what it likes to have an emergency, as opposed to just being focused on, well, what is the checklist and what is the procedure? You know, for a young pilot to have that sensation of the aircraft going out of control, of having to mentally recover yourself. And I think that in air traffic, we have parallels here where, you know, the person who's never experienced an emergency before, do we want to put them into the simulator and simply assess their ability, or do we want to give them that experience of having the emergency? Pavel.
I'd like to say that whatever you do depends on what you are looking for, what's the goal. If you want people to learn, you need to have a certain safety in the situation. And you can create that safety by having clear boundaries of the situation in a teacher-student interaction way, so that they feel safe. Either are they assessed or are they learning new things. And if they are learning new procedures, it's a bit different. The simulation must be a bit different from if they are learning how to cope with stress, how to feel the stress, what the stress feels like, how it feels like when you know that you are 2 minutes behind of the situation and you have to go faster and faster, and how it feels that you might not catch the situation anymore. The stressful situation when you're learning stress can be still made less stressful by assessing it or not assessing it, or helping them to learn from the training or from the simulation. As Fuad said, just you need safety. Yes, safety is essential for learning new things. It's a different kind of simulation if you are assessing the competences or if you are learning new stressful things. And the ways that you can make the situation less stressful is openness, is transparency, towards the students, towards the system, and towards the teacher. And I'd say if you haven't tried it, go ahead and try it a few times. Think about it beforehand, and you might be surprised.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to put maybe the question to you as well. In your own environments, how are you approaching this particular, if you like, dichotomy? I have to assess my trainees, but I also want to give them a learning experience. Is there anybody that can share how they're doing it in their environment?
We are not doing our refresher in-house, we're doing it with the DFS together. And we had big discussions about it, should we assess for years already. And we decided we don't assess a refresher, we observe what people do, because we do continuous assessment during the year. So any shortcoming in the standards and even in unusual situations will be pointed out early. So we don't want to come to a case where someone is not competent anymore. So during the refresher, what the idea is, as we want to enhance what they do, but we also give them the freedom to try things out on certain situations, which they might not do in real traffic, because it's trying something out, there's a risk that it doesn't work. But we won't give them the opportunity to do that in a refresher course. Try something out. On the other hand, I want to push people to their limits as well, so that they realize where their limits are. And I don't want to assess people when I push them to their limits. Or maybe for someone it will be above their limits, but they have to realize where the limits are. And as soon as you come to the limits, they will maybe do mistakes, and I don't want to assess on that. I want to observe, give them feedback on what they did. And that's why I'm really not happy if I should assess someone in a refresher, because I will be losing all this. Then I'm going back to what I call ticking a box, because then I'm losing this. Then I'm just doing, show me the standard, traffic we have every day, okay, you did it good, assessed. And I want to give them the opportunity to try and push them.
Okay, so from your perspective, this is about a learning opportunity for the individual as opposed to an assessment of their competence. Okay. There was a hand over here. Luke.
It's a bit along the same lines. I think it's more important to have an overall competence culture than an isolated assessment of a refresher training activity. And if you make the combination of a continuous assessment, regular observations, theoretical checks, refresher training activities, safety notes, etc., that's for me the gist of a call it a safety culture or a competence culture where people are supported in maintaining a level of competence rather than putting the isolated occasion of refresher training at assessment.
Okay, thanks, Luke. And maybe just by a show of hands, how many of your organizations do in fact assess? I'm not talking about the examine part because I think that's far more frequent, but how many of you are currently assessing your refresher training? So, quite a number. Okay, thank you very much.